All right, let's see. There we go. That
There we go.
down. Yep, we're going to get this to record on the cloud.
Tremendous.
And we're going to get that going, and then we should be on and we should be okay. Hey, everybody. This is actually a really great surprise. It's a surprise that's not a surprise. We're supposed to have a tasting with Ian. This is Ian Palmer, for those of you who don't know. He is the owner, the proprietor, the master distiller, the chief cook and bottle washer.
Yep.
Say the name of the distillery, because I always get it wrong.
Yeah. So I always go back a bit
Yeah.
and then run at it.
Yeah.
InchDairnie.
InchDairnie.
That's
You
it.
can see why I get that
InchDairnie.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
He changes that as I drink more. He keeps changing the pronunciations, but the more important thing is the product that's now available in the United States, and especially here in Massachusetts, of course, is the RyeLaw. Super. Everybody who's tried this has fallen in love with this. My father bought a bottle.
Okay.
My father's he's got hooks in his pocket. He puts his hand in, but it won't come out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, but I bought him a bottle of it, and I said, because he liked it so much. I got him a bottle, and I was lucky enough that you had signed it. So I'm probably gonna have to buy him another bottle, because I don't know if he'll open the bottle that you signed. But all it makes me is spend more money on your product, which is perfectly fine, right?
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. It's all right.
But it's been like, you're going to be here until 3 o'clock. He's going to be signing bottles at Julio's Liquors, 140 Turnpike Road. You want to know the pertinent information, go to juliosliquors.com. Come on down, though, because Ian's going to be here. We're going to have some fun. We're going to drink some whiskey. I even changed the name of the show to A Shot of Rye.
Ooh.
You like that? So this will be coming on. We'll actually put this on. It's the Liquor Talking podcast. So everybody wants to go back and look at it, they certainly can. All right.
Okay.
Now, the most important thing that I think we can do is pour me some whiskey. Actually, I have another glass. We have somebody here that's watching with us, so I'll get him a glass too, if you won't mind. You want to come up here and get your glass? We got a studio audience. The more you drink, the better we sound. So have fun with that. Thank you.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
So, totally bizarro. You guys are doing rye whiskey in Scotland.
Yes. So it's a Scottish rye.
Yeah. So what would possess a person to do rye whiskey in Scotland?
Two things.
Okay.
First thing is stupidity.
Yes.
And the second thing is just why not? And then answer the question. So we decided that it's a new distillery. So we have got no heritage, we've got no background. I can't tell you about the old story of the shepherd in 1825 who stumbled across this wonderful spring.
Right.
No, don't have that.
A little wee tear goes down.
Yeah, no, that whole story. No, yeah. we ain't got that. All we've got is the contents of the bottle. And the contents of the bottle is all about flavor. And we were starting up a new distillery, and we're looking for things to introduce ourselves to the world.
Yep.
And to introduce ourselves to the world, we need a series of products. And rye was quite an obvious one to us.
Why was it obvious, though? Why was it obvious? I mean, it's sort of an odd grain for Scotland, isn't it not?
Rye has been used in Scotch whiskey for a long time, but it's a bit like America. There was a gap when it wasn't used.
Okay.
So, but it was still grown in Scotland. It's still there. They don't grow it really for all the other reasons, but it tends to be grown principally for bread. It's not used for animal feed. It was down to a really small amount, but it stopped in distilling terms quite some time ago. But when you make a whiskey using rye, you change the flavor profile. Mm-hmm. It does challenge how the distillery functions, that's for sure. It's an interesting grain to use.
How much? Let me just ask. How was your education into rye? Did you make a big mess? Because that's usually what I hear from a lot of people. That first time they start using rye, and they said because it can foam, it can do a lot of these other things. Did you have any problems that way?
Right. So I heard the stories of the foam. Right. So I thought, okay, I'm going to speak to some people about the foam. When they said, Ian, watch it, it foams.
That's
So I said,
that's the
okay.
advice they gave
Yeah,
you.
they said watch it. It foams. I'm thinking watching it doesn't going to help me. I can watch
Right.
I can watch foam anywhere. But so we said, okay, it's going to foam in the fermentation. So we thought, right, only normally we put 4 mashes into the big tall
Okay.
wash bar. So we only put one in,
All right.
leaving all that
The
room.
headspace. Get
Yeah,
a ton of
loads of
headspace.
space so we left it for a day. And then we opened up the hatch and took a look inside and went, oh dear, we have a problem because there was no foam.
Oh,
So we checked it out. It was fermenting, but there was no foam.
okay.
So the next day we put 2 mashes into another washback and we
Yeah.
checked it again and it's no foaming. So we went back to the first one and we looked inside, it's not foaming. So I thought, I know all my former American and Canadian colleagues were saying, Palmer is going to be making rye. Let's put him off.
You thought it was like a big, let's
It,
big prank him.
I think it was a prank. So we were a bit suspicious about that. But anyway, it fermented and it made great product. But there was a thing in my head that said that this isn't right. So we got in touch with the people who supplied us with the seed, and he came and he says, "Which one did I sell you?" I says, "Well, it was this Magnifico." And I thought, I mean, these people who name these
Yeah,
cereals,
yeah.
I mean, they must have a great party because I mean, we've got a new cereal. What are we going to call it? Magnifico.
Who'd
So
argue with?
who'd argue with that?
Yeah.
So he goes through this old book and says, "Oh yeah, that's a non-foaming variety."
Ah, problem solved.
Nobody told us there was a non-foaming variety.
Right.
So that was, and now we didn't set out to go for that.
Right.
We just fell onto that one completely. So that made a huge difference to things.
So we will be using Magnifico
We go
from
with
now on.
that, and
Yeah.
yeah. So we are very careful now about the cereal that our farmer who we've got one farm in Fife who grows it for us, and we tell him that's the variety because it doesn't foam
Right.
and it isn't quite. But we also use malted rye. Now, malted rye helps a lot in
Right.
that respect, and it takes down all of the viscosity, and it's easier to handle.
Now, is it 100% rye?
No, it's 53% rye.
Okay.
So again, this is where we wanted to make a Scottish rye.
Right.
So we didn't want the rye spice to be absolutely everything. We wanted it to be a nice balance between the rye flavors and the malted barley because there's only 2 grains. So it's 53% malted rye, 47% malted barley. So that gives you the chance to get a bit of balance where the rye is part of the story, but not the whole story. I don't like things being one dimensional.
But even just using malted rye,
yeah,
you've already set yourself apart from about 95% of other people making rye anyways.
Yeah,
you know.
that's right. Yeah, we are. But we are a malt distillery in Scotland. So, it is malted grains that we would use.
Right,
so
right. No, it
so
makes
that's
sense.
what's in our
Makes
thinking.
sense, yeah.
It's malted grains, but also the malted grains pulled back a little bit of the rye spice and also only going to 53%. So we're already a very low level of rye, and then you also malt it and it tones it back a piece. So it kind of made for a more complex whiskey. That was our plan. And also, we didn't want to make an American rye whiskey. I mean,
they make those somewhere. Oh yeah, in America.
Yeah, I mean, we thought, well, it would be insulting to the American distillers just to do a Me Too.
Yeah,
but also we weren't bringing anything new to the party.
Right.
Just to do another one. I mean, what are you doing? You're not contributing to the story. We wanted to make things somewhat different and to do our own thing. And we just thought, tell you what, let's go for this. It tones it down. It gives it breadth of flavor. But what we wanted to do was also to kind of challenge a few things where we've got the Scottish regulations and the American regulations. And can you actually put them together? And can you meet the two sets of rules? 100%.
Oh, yeah, because if you're going to put it in the United States, you don't want to run into the problem of it not being able to call it a rye.
Yeah. So we had to meet both sets of regulations, and that's what we did. And we kind of narrowed it down to what we would say would be the 4 principles of rye, more than 51%. So we're on 53% into there. Your distillation strength less than 80, we're 72. We knock it down to 62.5 before we put it into the barrel. Normally it's 63. But also the big difference here is the barrel, because in Scotland, we're very good at using barrels that the first two letters of the name of the barrel are the same. It's EX, X wine, X sherry,
Right.
X whatever you want to call it, as long as it's been used before.
Mm-hmm.
Not here.
Okay.
This here is new oak char number 3 casks.
And what are you using for oak? Are you using American
American
white
oak,
oak?
they actually come from here in America.
Okay.
So our cooperage friends are able to supply us with basically bourbon barrels that have not seen bourbon.
Okay.
Char number 3, ship them to Scotland, and we then filled them with the
You're
new
doing
make.
char 3, which
Char
is
3.
nice.
Yeah.
Virgin oak barrels.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. We just said to our cooperage, just send us some, the usual thing. And that's what they said they did. And it was char number 3. And I said, well, why number 3? Because that's what you use in America. The world is different. The way it matures is different
Mm-hmm.
because the temperature, the humidity is different in Scotland. So does the char make a difference? So we agreed, he agreed to send us over some number 1, number 2, number 4, and number 5, and we put them together. And we filled them on the same day, put them in the same place in the warehouse, and then went back a year to
Okay.
go and sample it. And char number 1, forget it. I mean, it was hardly worth the effort.
Right.
Char number 5, I think if you have a barbecue on a Saturday afternoon, and then you in your garden, and then you go into your garden on the Sunday, that's not good.
Right.
That's not
Right.
good. And sure enough, number
Overwhelmed. It
oh
sort of took away the character
yeah,
and
it did. It was aggressive,
yeah.
and it was quite acidic and things like that. But that was after 1 year. But we've just followed it on, and oddly enough, char number 1 and char number 5 in year 1 were here. And as the years went on, they went narrower and narrower. But you still had a difference between 5. So, yeah, okay. Char number 3 is probably right. I think
That's
that's the
pretty
right.
good. And I like the fact that, like, so my sort of theory on rye, I mean, I know you're malting it and stuff. My sort of theory on rye is because when we talk about American rye and we talk about, because American rye and American bourbon, I usually talked about in maybe not the same sentence, but at least in the same paragraph, right?
Yes.
So when you start talking about the stuffs and my basic um observation of buying lots of barrels of rye and bourbon over the years is that rye tends to mature faster than bourbon,
Yes.
corn based. And
Yes.
then if you add more of the barley to it, because there is a mash bill from coming out of MGP, which is like 51-49,
Mhm.
51 rye, 49% malted barley. Which is one of my favorite ryes, by the way. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that sort of combination. So now you have that. You have that. It doesn't get the graininess that bourbon or corn has at a younger age. It matures a little bit faster, and it gets sort of rounded edges. And on top of that, you start malting the rye, and now and the rest of it is all malted barley.
Yeah.
You get that creaminess, that
Yes.
that sort of
Yes.
that you get viscosity and creaminess all at
Yep.
the same time.
Yeah.
And this is what's really busting out of
Hmm.
this liquid. And you've created a beautiful monster because it's
Yes.
it's not really falling into. I know it's rye, and
Yes.
you have done everything you could to make sure
Yep.
that within the confines of the rules,
Yes.
you have done what you should do.
Yes.
But on the other hand, I think you've also pushed against the envelope
We
as much as possible without ripping the paper.
Yeah,
How's that?
yeah. And I think that was something that was a deliberate thing we wanted to do. Because if it was just like everybody else, we were up against everybody else. Also, I sometimes feel there is quite a big gap between the rye and the bourbon and the Scotch whiskey. There is this
Yeah.
piece, and I kind of felt there was an empty space in here
Mm-hmm.
where you could actually take this, oh, rye's too much for me, too much, well, try this one, and it'll meet you halfway.
Rounder edges. And
Yes,
yeah.
and I mean, for me, what I don't want to do is to sit down at a table with a glass in front of me, and I've got a grip of the table here because I'm thinking this is going to hurt when I drink
Right.
it. No, I don't want
Well,
to
what
do that.
proof are you doing these at?
So that's at 46.3.
Okay.
46.3, it lets people decide what strength they want it to do, and we don't add caramel to the color. The color only comes from the wood. We don't do any chill filtration, so we take nothing away.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference between the whiskey in the bottle and what came out of the cask is the water that we broke it down to 46.3.
And that you hit that magic number, so the flocculation or getting cloudy is not really going to come into effect.
It's not into there because I mean,
yeah,
I think a lot of that sort of fatty esters is coming really from the malted barley side of things, and it's not 100% malted barley. And you know, we have never had an issue with it. I drink it with one very large lump of ice, much bigger glass than you've poured for me here. I like the big one, you know.
Yeah. Oh, well, see if I get one of those around.
And it doesn't flock. We don't have any of that problem with it. Even if we did have a problem with it, I would leave it alone.
No, I mean, over the years, I think ourselves and our brethren out there that are talking about whiskey and try to educate people on whiskey have gotten to the point where most people that are going to be trying your product anyways are understand that if that occurs, there's nothing wrong with the whiskey. It means it's less processed.
Yes.
And you're getting a better, it's almost a sign of, I hate to say it, because where in the world do you get, it's getting cloudy, that's a sign of quality.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It demonstrates that you're getting all of the whiskey.
All of the whiskey.
All of the
all
whiskey.
the flavor, all the other stuff.
The dozen piece. You know, you've got that piece there. And I think that it is a lot more honest. And I think the product is there.
No, I think you're absolutely right.
Product is there.
I think you're absolutely right on that. Okay. Because, you know, we got these great bottles on the thing. Begs the question. I mean, just looking at these things, they're gorgeous. You know, I only drink the whiskey inside, but listen, if you're going to put it in nice packaging, I love that. But you got to explain to me the reasoning behind the packaging. Because I know somebody doesn't do a packaging like this. Well, maybe if they do, if they're just marketers, but you wouldn't do that.
Me marketing?
No. But you wouldn't do that. You're doing this because it represents something.
It does.
And so what does it represent? What's the whole thing?
So this is not a glass container to hold whiskey. This actually is the story of InchDairnie Distillery, and in this occasion, the RyeLaw into here. So we've got this shape. There's loads of ones with that shape, but what you've got there above the name InchDairnie Distillery is our icon into there. And it really is a take on a copper dog. When you're sampling a cask, you do it like this. You put your thumb over the end and you pull it up, right? So you always then end up with a little drip exactly into there. That's it.
This is a mini one. This is the take from the center of whiskey, of a bottle.
Okay.
So the other, here's the one behind you. We got a bigger one behind you.
Right. Yeah.
That's your thief right there.
That's.
But this is sort of like, you know, if you want to miniaturize it down, it's sort of like that.
Yeah. So that's what we've got. But what we've done is we've kind of wedge shaped the little piece into there. So the overall shape of the bottle is really from our icon on there, and with the wee drip on the end into there. So it's all about that whole thing. And the wee drip at the end. In Scotland, when we use those things, we always hold them above the bunghole.
Right.
Because there's always a drip.
Always.
And you don't want that drip going on the floor. The drip has to go back.
My grandmother used to say, waste not, want not.
That's it. Yeah. So we made that shape there, but on the side of the bottle here is 3 ripples. Now, when we were designing the distillery, it's a blank sheet of paper, which is really dangerous. You can go off and do all sorts of things. But we needed a number of things, some kind of guiding principles. And we took a look at the legislation right back to the law over Scotch whisky. And there's a line in the law that says it shall have the flavour and aroma of the materials used, the methods employed, and its maturation. The 3 M's.
Okay.
You mess with any one of the 3 M's, any 2 of them, or with all 3 of them, you're going to change the character of the whiskey. So that was it. So the 3 M's were really important. So we put 3 ripples on the side of the bottle. And where the 3 ripples meet, right there, is where the magic happens. So this here, RyeLaw, if you think about the materials, 53% malted rye, 47% malted barley. We then meet, the two of those grains meet above the hammer mill, not a roller mill, but a hammer mill.
Okay.
So the hammer mill is very important in handling some of the rye issues that we've got. But the hammer mill is so important that we actually put a section of the hammer mill on the neck. And you'll also see it on here.
Side of the
That's
container.
it. So that there is, in fact, the hammer mill on there. And that's really important to us. RyeLaw is the name of the brand. RyeLaw. Law is a small, isolated hill in Scotland. So RyeLaw, the brand, means the hill where the rye grows.
Okay.
So it's already telling you that there's a bit of rye. It's a Fife single grain Scotch whisky. Fife. We say, because Fife is a section of Scotland just to the north of Edinburgh. And that's where the distillery is. But for us, that wasn't good enough. So all the cereal that goes into here is grown in the region of Scotland called Fife. The distillery is in Fife, and everything is matured at the distillery in Fife. So the whole bottle there, and it tells you there that it actually is a Fife Scotch whisky. We've got InchDairnie, that means hidden land close to water. On here, we've got an alphanumeric random code on every single bottle. So you scan that there, it will ask you for that, and that bottle is in fact yours. We only
you're actually you can actually log them in.
Log it in, and
right.
Also we do this, and it's on the top of the closure here. We put this out as a vintage.
Okay.
So this was distilled in 2017, and it was bottled really late, Christmas Eve on 2022 into there, but all the grain was grown in 2016. We never mix up harvesting into there. So really the whole thing is it talking about the distillery, talking about the whiskey, and it's a way of demonstrating who we are and what we are. And we're going to keep to the same bottle shape for all the other brands coming out, but we're just going to change the color up here to make them different into there. But that is the InchDairnie bottle. And it's all focused on everything that we built into the distillery.
All of that, that's great in the law, what it means. But I always thought too that the whole point was you were going to stay within the law of rye whiskey.
Yes.
So did you mean I'm sure you meant the double meaning.
No.
Who believes him?
No.
That he says no. I think he's saying no very sarcastically.
Yeah. So we have met the rules of Scotch whiskey, and we've met the rules that are written into the American law for the production of rye whiskey.
Listen, all of that is fantastic. Makes a great story. I love the whole packaging. I love everything. But the most important part is I love the product that's inside. How are you, first of all, how has it been received in the United States? And how are you sort of like getting people really? I mean, I know you're rye whiskey, but it's sort of almost a new category in rye whiskey, though.
Yes, and that's
how are you being received?
Yes, I think that once people try it, they like it. So I think it is being received very well. And I think
liquid to lips, you know that.
Yeah, liquid to lips is so important to us. And any opportunity that we've got to go and try that is important to us. But it is received well because people feel that it's different, but it's different in the positive way in that it opens up a whole different flavor profile.
Yeah, it really does.
It's not just the rye spice, it's everything to the left and to the right of it. The rye spice is toned back a bit, allowing the malted barley flavors to come through. So there's sweetness to it. And that's also giving you some mouthfeel into there. The rye has got different spices into there. We've got a bit of cinnamon into there, a bit of allspice into there. But we've also got enough room there for the rye bread to fit in. Got the bready flavors to come into there. And then the whole thing combined together, the wood actually is quite an aromatic wood. It's not really a very harsh oak wood. There's an element of flavors.
Because even though you're doing char 3, your environment is completely different than the American environment. So the interaction with the whiskey and the wood is going to be different than it would be in Kentucky.
Yeah, and that's why we said to the cooperage, well, send us the other chars just in case actually that works better. But really what happened is that it seemed to be that char number 3 was the right number. But in terms of the differences, we lose strength when
Right.
we are maturing.
Right.
Over here, it's the other way
Right.
around. I
Exactly.
mean, that really is a fundamental indication that it matures differently
Correct.
because of the different actions that are going on with the atmosphere within the warehouse is different. Our temperature difference from summer to winter is probably less than 10 degrees.
Hmm.
It probably drops as low as 4, maybe 5 in the winter, up to a really hot day in Scotland, 15 degrees, and then
That's Celsius for those that are
yeah,
playing along at
sorry,
home.
yeah,
No, that's
sorry,
okay.
yes, I'm a bit European in that
Yeah, yeah.
respect.
So you're talking about above freezing,
Yeah,
right? To
yeah,
about like 75, 80.
yeah. It will never go below freezing in a maturation warehouse. It
Right.
won't. There's just too much liquid
Too
into it.
much liquid, too
Yeah,
much
yeah.
everything else.
It's a much more stable environment within a Scottish warehouse.
Yeah.
Yes, much more
Are you
stable.
using it? Is it a dunnage warehouse?
No, it's actually palletized.
Really?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
that's good.
All the casks are on end,
Yeah.
and we store them. It's quite a dense kind of.
Yeah, and then that sort of stops those huge fluctuations too.
Yes, it holds it in a much more stable environment. So it does mature differently. So for the wood to have a different impact in Scotland to America is, yeah, it's a bit obvious. It's
Yeah.
going to make a difference. And for me, it kind of gives you a much more aromatic. Yes, there's the vanilla, of course
Hmm.
there is, but I think the wood flavor tends to be more sort of Far East aromatic kind of wood, a bit like a perfume box
Well, I think,
flavor.
and I think you get like the flavors that I get on this is you get the baking spices,
Yeah.
you get the vanilla, you almost get almost a honeying, in parts of it. You get that little bit of sweetness, but it's almost like a light honey,
Yes.
flavors going on in there. The malted rye, I think, even adds a little bit of like I don't want to say chocolate, but it's chocolate like flavor component there.
Yeah, we've kind of narrowed that down in our own heads because I mean, that's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
And what we've said is really to narrow that down, to me, is sweet caramel.
Okay.
So
All
we've
right.
got
All
the
right.
sweetness coming through from the malted
Yeah.
barley. We've got the caramel from the cask. Because it's a new
Yeah.
cask, it's never seen anything before. There's going to be a lot of that. And so really the wood piece and the malted barley piece come together to give you that sweet caramel. And for some people, that's how they would describe it. Like, like a honey,
Yep.
sort of caramel flavors.
Yeah.
And caramel leads you on to chocolate.
Yep.
So there is a lot of connectivity there.
How long are you maturing this for?
So this is five.
That's 5.
5 years,
Yep. Yep.
yes, always 5 years. We bring out another vintage. Some of the vintages might be a year older. It will
Yeah, but
depend.
you're going to do it on flavor profile then more
Yes,
than
but
anything
but
else.
really, we've got a pillar of the flavor
Yeah.
profile, and each vintage will subtly change left and right of each one of these.
One of the things that I have to say that this whiskey does, and it has in it, and I don't think a lot of other whiskeys do, and I think everybody's always looking for extremes. Here in America, we're always looking for extremes. We want more wood spice. We want
Mhm.
in beer, we want more hops. We want, it's always these extremes. And what I'm getting from this whiskey and all the flavors you just described, and actually tasting this, the viscosity, the mouthfeel, everything else that's going on there, balance.
Yes,
It's a balanced whiskey.
yes,
There's no sharp edges.
no,
And I think some people might think, well, at 5 you're going to get those. No, you don't.
no,
No,
no.
you don't. Because I think the malting of both the barley and the rye, I think sort of give it a rounder mouthfeel. The fact that you're only doing you're over 92,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
sort of get some of those
yes,
congeners in there and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
This is really, really lovely. Very, very good job on
yeah.
this.
Well,
I fell in love with the first time I tried it. Guess what? I just fell in love again.
yeah, thank you. I mean, our whole idea was to create breadth of flavor. And if you go to those extremes, as you were saying, it becomes one dimensional.
Yeah,
You can't have 6 extremes.
right.
You can't. You can only have one extreme. So
Exactly.
one of them is going to punch through. And when it punches through to such an extent, all the others just fall behind. And you just get a one-dimensional taste. I mean, to me, I like to have something that takes time and it
Exactly.
spreads over. And this is a real quiet, enjoyable drink. Cheers.
Cheers, my
Slange.
friend. Slanger. Well, you've done it. Thank you for coming by today. I really appreciate it. I want all of you to know, like I said, he's going to be here for another half hour at the store at Julio's Liquors, 140 Turnpike Road. But the more important part is we'll have a bottle of this that you can try, and you can come in and try with like John or myself or whatever. Try it. Get liquid to lips, man, is the best way to go. You aren't going to know the answer before you make your purchase, but it's a beautiful, beautiful product. And I wish you all the best and luck on this, because I want this to stick around because I like it.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Ian Palmer, the product is RyeLaw. Go get some now. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Facebook Live. And like I said, this will be on our podcast. It's the Liquor Talking afterwards. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.